It is a strange market right now. The economy's kind of weird. It's a weird season, presidential year, dollars up, dollars down, inflation. You name all the stuff. It's being talked about in the news. The question everyone really needs to know is,
where are the cicadas?
No. Should you be looking at a new RV or a used RV? You're going to get an RV anyways, but should you opt for the new whiz bang, or should you find something with a little bit of mileage, a little bit of love, but in great shape? What should you do?
I think the answer isn't as easy as it seems. So
we have to
let's talk. We got to talk about it.
Oh, we got to talk about it at length. Okay. Welcome to the RV Small Talk podcast, where we talk about lightweight trailers, truck campers, and the people, places, and adventures that go right along with them. We're your hosts from Princess Craft RV. I'm Clint.
I'm PJ.
And I'm so happy to be here. I feel like it's been forever.
It kind of has. In the life of like a fruit fly, it's been several iterations of lives since you've been on a podcast.
Are you saying a whole family of fruit flies has died since I sat behind this microphone?
Generations.
Wow.
We're probably in the great-great-great-grandpappy.
So I'm just murdering fruit flies now?
No. It's just been that long, that length of time. You haven't touched a fruit fly. Well, maybe you have.
Okay. RVs.
Thank you. Sometimes they get fruit flies too.
It's true.
Could be.
So does a fruit fly that you bring with you, does it want to be in a new RV or a used RV? Is this the time?
Ask the fruit fly.
So who's in the market right now anyways? I mean, if you've been talking to the sales staff, watching the stats here in Texas and nationwide, who's in the market right now?
People are in the market for a good deal. The market is down, meaning there are less buyers out there right now, I believe. But I think it's that people are still looking for the deal of a century. And we see a lot of customers come in. They kind of know what they want. They're looking around. And every time you say, yeah, we have this used one for $32,500.
Okay.
Well, I was looking for one kind of in the 15 to 20 range. And you're like,
yeah, that's always been the magic number, though.
Well, that you won't find. If you find one, it won't be as good as this one, or it'll be a lot older. People are just hoping there's a deal of a century out there,
right.
And I don't know. There's always some of that, but we're seeing a whole lot of that now. And you know what? We also have found that there are some deal of the centuries out there.
Sure.
Right now.
So the number that you threw out there was interesting, because that 15,000 kind of range has always been kind of like the go-to number for entering the RV market. And you'll find lots of young families or what have you, people in their late 20s, 30s, 40s or whatever, or maybe they're in the 50s and it's their first one. And it'll oftentimes be like a special deal at a big dealership with the bunkhouse. Stick and tin build.
Right.
Something kind of traditional, easy to slap together, and it's your entry point. You're dipping your whole foot in the water, kind of thing. Yeah. That number is always interesting. So, are those deals out there right now? I think.
Well, the most searchable category, money wise, is 15 to 20,000.
Right.
The most common, the average purchase price of RVs sold that people are buying is 25 to 30.
Okay.
So I think it's like anything else. You start with a budget in mind, and then you realize what you want maybe isn't in that budget.
Sure.
Or maybe you get something a little nicer.
Right.
Or a little bigger.
Totally happened with my last truck purchase.
I
was thinking about getting like a tradesman like model of truck. And like, do they still make trucks that you can crank the windows down by hand? Because that's what I was willing to go for. And of course I ended up with something with an effects package and all that.
So I have to know, do they actually make trucks with crank down windows?
They do, but you have to special order them to be that sad. So I digress. I think that's pretty common. You're looking for something. You already convinced yourself that you're coming in and going, this is all I need. Isn't that from a movie?
Yeah.
That's all I need.
And that's all I need.
Yeah. So you come in with like, I'm gonna go with the basics, the basic trim, basic package. Don't need all the bells and whistles. But you get into the scenario and you see that first off on the lot, they have most of the options on them. And you also, as when you're in the environment, will be like, oh, I get how that would actually enhance the experience. So you start seeing the creep of dollars, but you also start selling yourself the value of the creep. It's a valuable creep. Some creeps are valuable.
Creep.
I don't know. Oh gosh, I don't know if anybody's following. I'm not sure I am. But yeah, everybody wants a little bit more than they started out thinking they needed.
Sure.
We all love to think of ourselves as minimalist creatures.
Yeah.
Or
creeps.
Or creeps.
Yeah.
None of us are. I mean, really.
There's tons of creeps out there.
No. Okay, so
just call me Jeepers.
Are you saying there's no creepy people in this world?
Oh,
look me in the eyes.
I'm not a creep.
That's all I need.
Call up Radiohead right now.
But
okay. So what are we talking about? New versus used?
Yeah. So if everybody's trying to buy a little bit more in a new unit, how do they get to used? Why are used selling so much better than new right now? And by the way, have we said that yet? Used
no, that was the first time it's been said in this podcast.
I say it all the time. I say lots of things.
You also said it in the last podcast, but maybe they missed that moment.
Maybe they didn't listen to the last one.
Yeah.
Maybe they listened to the last one, but they were sipping their coffee or something.
Maybe.
Loudly.
Used trailers are selling really well right now.
Yeah.
And they have been for a little while. There was always the idea after the pandemic that everybody was going to want the used ones because everybody was trading them in and giving up the RV lifestyle. Right. And we really haven't seen that much of that.
No.
Not nearly what people thought would happen.
Right.
People didn't just throw away their RVs and walk away.
Exactly. What we haven't seen,
but they traded.
Yeah, we haven't seen them leaving the recreation.
Yeah, not in droves like we expected.
They tasted it and they're like, actually, I want more.
Well, I mean, most people upgrade within about 3 years.
That's pretty typical.
It's very typical. So I think we've just hit that 2 to 3 year mark, and people are upgrading, or their kids got bigger, or their kids went off to college, or it would just be nice to have a little bigger bathroom or a walk around bed or an extra slide out.
Or maybe they just want to try a wholly different format. They still like getting out there, but there's different places they want to see.
Yeah, sure. We're seeing all kinds of people shuffling around right now, and they want a good deal.
But no creeps.
No creeps. No, not here at Princess Craft. We don't have creeps. So
look me in the eyes.
Yeah. We have a resident creep, apparently. A closet creep.
I'm the captain now.
Sorry, you guys thought that Clint was all American. I mean, I don't know.
Stop yawning.
So, when we're talking about used units, though, it's kind of scary buying a used unit. Don't you think? It's scary buying a used car.
In a way, yeah. You wonder, and I think it's ingrained in us to start going, what's wrong with it? What's already worn out?
Yeah.
My grandparents always told me, when you buy a used car, you're just buying someone else's problems. And looking at how they pinched pennies, I'm like, that's odd coming from you.
Do you know, my father's dad was the same way. He would never spend any of his pension or anything. He only spent his Social Security. They lived like they didn't have a penny to their name. And he had plenty of money, but he bought a new car his whole life every 2 years.
Right.
So he never had to worry about fixing it.
One of those categories.
He even owned a gas station. I mean, this isn't a guy who couldn't do it.
Yeah, he knew the mechanics, and if he needed to fix something.
Yeah, but
it didn't. Interesting.
It was a different world back then, I think, as well. Whereas you buy a car, you run it, and then you get another car. It just made it kind of worry-free.
Yeah.
So I think that was the idea back then. And I don't know what the difference was between a new one and a used one, how hard it was to buy a new one.
Right.
It may be a much higher percentage of our income at this point.
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure. But when it comes to RVs, having been here at Princess Craft for a few years, I've learned there's a lot that is actually pretty easy to fix. If there's a problem, it's almost like component swapping or just one step beyond maintenance.
Well, it's kind of like if your washer dies, then you just go buy another washer.
At this point, right.
And you just,
what do you have? Water heaters, maybe some fixtures, or you just want an upgrade of a system.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're seeing a lot of people upgrading. There is a lot of used on the market, but you know what else there is?
What?
There is a lot of aged new units.
Can we call them new old stock at this point?
Well, it's confusing to me, but you can call it whatever you want.
Call them old school new.
Okay.
Can we call them new old school? New?
Slightly experienced, but never left a lot. No, that's not right.
Old school.
Okay, so there is brand new stuff that is maybe still, say, 2023s.
Or 2022s.
Yeah.
They are still out there.
Yeah.
And if you find somebody with the 2022,
make them an offer.
Yeah.
Just make them an offer.
If it's what you really want. But is that really better than a used one? Is it?
I don't know.
I don't know.
So this is one thing that comes up whenever I look at some categories, like say a house or something like that. A house that isn't lived in seems to fall apart faster than a house that is lived in. Even if the people living in it are, not necessarily staying on top of maintenance 100%, it seems like nature starts reclaiming a house if a human isn't residing there.
I think nature reclaims everything if no one's residing there. And that is the first fear of buying a used one. And it is something that people, I think, have misunderstood. So what happens when you're looking at this and you're buying a trailer from this guy and it looks perfect? And he says, yes, it's only 3 years old. I have kept it undercover the whole time and I've only used it twice. Sounds like a gem.
It does.
Right?
Yeah. Sounds like the tires are rotted.
Tires could be rotted. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many bugs have made homes inside things
right. And even,
that you're going to have to tear apart.
Even
to
under
fix.
the cover in Texas, it's still going to be well over 100 degrees in the middle of summer. So those seals might have still needed attention.
Absolutely. So if he hasn't used it, he probably hasn't maintained it. So tires, seals, and then you're looking at propane that's been sitting there for 2 years. And, you may have wasp nests inside the furnace. And the only way to fix it is to pull out your furnace and pull it apart, clean it up. You could have had a water leak that he didn't know about.
Sure. And if it's been sitting for 2 years, let's say the seals go bad in the first year and a few months. Well, now he hasn't been maintaining it. And even just undercover, you still have condensation issues and all that can still kind of creep in and what have you. And then
that's that word again.
That's
it's got to go in the title
creeping
somehow.
You'll figure it out.
So
those are the ones that people come to trade in and they say, oh yeah, it's perfect. We haven't used it in 2 years, but it was perfect.
Yeah.
They bring it in and one whole side of it is black.
Yeah.
And we're like, they said, oh yeah, it was just sitting under a tree. And I'm like, nobody's touched this in 2 years.
Yeah.
And you go inside and you find that they put one really heavily used gym sock in there for some reason and let it bake. It smells like something.
Or you have rodents or creatures that have lived in there and you can't tell till you get in.
Man, we are scaring people.
Well, I think that is the object of the game here, because sometimes you think it's a great deal if it hasn't been used.
So what's the words of wisdom, though?
Would you go buy a car that hadn't been driven in 2 years?
Well, I did buy a motorcycle that way.
Well, yeah, and then you went and bought a new one because you couldn't keep it running.
You got called out.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
I not only got it running, kept it running, I broke a spring. And because I am a large human, it squatted down too much and I would have bottomed out on large bumps, and I was going to ride it off road.
So it's
still running great.
Is that your excuse for buying a new one?
It was 48 hours before I was leaving on a trip that was centered around me riding the motorcycle in another state.
Okay, so is that your excuse for buying a new one?
You know,
we've all got an excuse.
Yeah,
I just wonder what it is.
Absolutely. It's the reason, which is another word that people throw around for excuse.
A rationalization. And when you went and bought a new one, was it kind of a, this one's going to work?
No, it pissed me off.
Did it?
Absolutely. I did not want to buy a new motorcycle. But I wanted to go through with something I'd been planning for almost a year.
You wanted to have a motorcycle at that moment.
I've been planning it for this trip. There was no reason to go on that trip. There was. We met up with family, but the reason I pitched the location and everything was to go somewhere we'd never been and ride a motorcycle around.
Okay, so don't you think that customers buying an RV might have that same thing? We have a trip planned this summer, and if I'm going to buy one, I really want a bigger one that will be more comfortable. It'll have a bigger bathroom, and I want it for this trip.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, sure.
Yeah. And I did buy a new one because I was so ticked off, and I did want something that was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I do want to know that it's reliable and has a warranty, because I already have something that I'm putting back together and rescuing. I had my rescue case. So I did get a brand new one because of that notion.
Well, you've had a great time with it.
Absolutely.
So do we have, I mean, what would you tell somebody wanting to buy a used RV right now in this market?
Come on down to Princess Craft RV.
Yes. If it were me, there's no way I'm doing it if I don't get my own eyes on it. Now, if you don't feel confident in getting your own eyes on it, we do work with RV inspectors and whatnot. Find a trusted dealership or get an inspector or get your own eyes on it, but be studied up and know what you're looking for. That would be me.
Okay, well, what if somebody doesn't know what they're looking for? I'm just saying the hazard of buying a used one is it is older. Things have been used. They may break or they may be broken or there may be problems that you don't know about.
Sure.
Right? Isn't
even
that the
an
fear?
inspector will miss something.
It's cheaper.
Okay. It's cheaper. And is it really cheaper? Maybe that is the next step we go to, because we've had used ones and new ones that were really close to the same price.
If there's new and used and they're within and it's an RV and they're within $5,000, I'm going new.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people buy the used one and don't ever look for a new one.
Right.
But the internet makes it so easy. If you go on RV Trader, you can kind of see what there is across the country. And there's always some that are really low and really high.
Right.
But it gives you an idea of what's out there.
Sure.
So we're not very patient as humans most of the time when we want to buy something like this.
Now.
But if you can be a little patient, you can find a great deal either on a new one or a used one.
So if you were buying a used one, I don't know if you're much like me. If I'm buying a used one, I like to be like, well, I'm going to immediately have the bearings repacked. I'm going to immediately have the seals checked, maybe redone. There's going to be a few things on my list of immediates. Possibly have those tires redone. What if it has been sitting for 2 years in their low hour? Who knows? Okay, new battery. So we're talking probably with all that, $1,000 extra. Do you just expect to do like right away maintenance, up to $3,000 maybe right away extra maintenance on top of a purchase of something used that's maybe 3 years old, 5 years old?
Well, that would be a very smart, very prudent thing to do, but 99% of America is not going to do that. They're just not.
Well,
They're all creeps.
All of them. Wow. The percentage of creeps have gone way up in this episode.
So one of the times that we see people wanting a used unit is because they want a real high-end unit for a lot cheaper.
Right.
We see this with Airstreams. We see this with the Olivers that we carry.
Right.
We see this with a lot of the high-end brands.
Right.
Anything that's like $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 or more.
Right.
People want to find a used one, and in my experience, they expect a used one to be 30% less than new if it's within a year or two, or they expect it to be half price if it's maybe 3 or 4 years old.
Oh, you had me do some research before this episode, and that is not what I saw.
Yeah, but that's what people expect, right? So what did you see?
Well, I mean, I pulled up like an example of Airstream flying clouds. Now, granted, I know there's different lengths of flying clouds. There's Nimbus, there's Cirrus, there's Nimbocumulus.
Moving on.
Yeah. Okay. So no. So there's different. So I know this is not 100% apples to apples, but I saw used starting in 2019 up to pretty new. 51,750 up to about $100,000. And then
but the new one started $100,000.
The new one started at $100,000 up to $121,000.
So you're looking at, maybe my estimate from when I compare, used Airstream is usually maybe 20% under the new selling price that I'm seeing out there right now. Now, if you get to something that's maybe a 2022 or 23, that's still new, you might even be closer than $20,000 between a new and a used.
Right.
So if that's the case, what do? Do you buy a new Airstream, or do you save 15 to 20 grand and get a used one?
And I don't think in Airstream terms. That's not the strata I exist in.
But that's always the dilemma.
Yeah.
The thing is, with a used one, you are going to maybe need some maintenance. You also you're not going to know any idiosyncrasies about it, and you have no warranty, right?
Right.
So you are taking a bit of a risk.
Yeah.
If you get something that's been on someone's lot for a year or more, or is a clearanced item, you're going to get a really good deal for many cases on the high-end units. Not much more money.
Warranted.
But you get it warranted.
Right.
So that's huge.
Yeah.
I think that is huge. Now, the other thing is, from anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000, you can buy a warranty, an extended service plan on a used one. So if somebody decides to go for a used trailer, you need to go to a dealership, and it doesn't matter which one. We all have them. We'll have a program to get you an extended service plan.
Right.
And there are some that they sell online. You can just Google it and buy there. I just don't recommend that, because then you have no one to go see if you have a problem.
Right. It's kind of the difference of having a living, breathing agent.
Right.
Insurance.
Exactly. So, there is there is a little savings, but it is not what people are expecting.
Right.
What about something that's on maybe a lower end?
Oh, my end. Yeah. An RPod.
The creeper end.
That's right. Down by the river. All right. So RPod, various years, lengths, and options, obviously. So a used 2019 up to newer. I saw a range of, and this is all an RV Trader, by the way, $14,900 to $23,999. These are used from 2019 up through, say, 2023. All right. But new, I saw a range from $13,900 to $27,095. There's so much overlap here.
So you could get a new one for $14,000.
Yeah. Now, granted, RPod made a strange, really small RPod for a couple years.
The 153?
That's the one. Yeah. And so that one, I think, is skewing the lower number a little bit.
Okay, so let's go to the high number.
Yeah.
If you can get a used RPod for $23,900, top of the line,
right,
and you can get a used new one, I mean a new one, top of the line at $27,000, that's $2,000 different, $3,000 difference.
Yeah, this is in that range that I spoke about.
$3,000 difference. Why would you buy a used one?
Right. This is in that range where it's, to me, it wouldn't take much of a hop, skip, and a jump.
So in the lower end, it is crazy that used is selling so well, because there are new ones out there that are only a few $1,000s more.
It feels like people are literally buying the word used because there's an emotional attachment to, I did something
I saved some money.
I made a wise decision.
I saved some money.
You can tell people I bought it used. It's fine. And so there's that emotional, psychological thing playing out.
It's like when people compliment my Stanley Cup, but then I just say, thanks. I know it's fake.
Oh, yeah.
But like I want to tell people that.
Oh, okay.
You just have to say, or when somebody gets compliments on their clothes and they have to tell you, oh yeah, I found it on the clearance rack. I only paid $19 for it, and it's a designer shirt that normally cost, $85.
Is that a real conversation?
Yes. Do you know people that do that?
She's looking at Caitlin. Caitlin?
My mom.
Okay. Mom, you've just been called out.
There's two types of people. There's the people that say, look at my new purse. It costs $5,000.
Yeah.
You know somebody like that too, Caitlin?
I have never seen purses that cost $5,000.
Who say, check out this purse. It was only 25 cents at Goodwill. I mean, you're one or the other of those people. You either brag about what you saved or you brag about what you spent.
So it's how you categorize a win. I win by having something that is, what do they call it?
Budget minded.
Caitlin, tell your family not to listen to this podcast, okay?
Conspicuous versus inconspicuous. You have people on both ends of the spectrum. The conspicuous braggart and the inconspicuous braggart.
But they're all creeps.
Ooh.
No, none of them are creeps.
I'm trying to fit this word into them.
You're doing a good job, Lindsay. But I think buyers have that same feeling. Yeah. Some buyers come in and they say, no, I want the best. And I want all the extras.
I'm willing to pay for it.
And I'll pay for it. Yeah, that's exactly what they want. Mm-hmm. And it's not about fitting a budget or getting a deal.
Yeah.
And then there's other people that you can be selling something $5,000 under cost, and they are not going to buy it unless they can haggle.
Right.
And get a lower price than what you started with.
So this happened to me when I was getting my second car after my first really catastrophic accident.
You've had several.
You know it. Walked away from too many rollovers. So, when I was in college and I got my second car to replace the first rolled over and demolished car, I got a 1996 Nissan Maxima used, and it was fantastic. It was all leather interior, Bose sound system, 5-speed manual transmission, and the thing just was a wonderful, wonderful car. And at the same time, a friend of mine, her dad went out of his way to buy her mom a Cadillac, I don't know, CTS or something like that. It was their sporty 2-door thing, but it also had all the sound system, leather. It actually was a manual transmission, I believe. It was almost the same car. It's just one was an old Nissan Maxima. One was a brand new Cadillac. And her dad and I were in the parking lot just kind of talking about it. And we talked about what he bought versus what I bought. And he was the top tier administrator of a local hospital. And I was a college student who just rolled a car and somehow walked away. and he at the end, he's like, huh, we kind of bought the same car from being a car and having nice features standpoint. Right. And I'm going, I spent $6,000. And
he spent a whole lot more.
Oh, yes. And I think that this is kind of similar, is that he was bragging one way, and there was nothing wrong with it. He got exactly what he was looking for. Right. And it was a status thing. And I was bragging the other way, going, this is kind of a dream vehicle, and all I had to do was roll one.
But I think the point here...
We have a point?
Is that...
I rarely do.
People so many times look for used units because you do feel like you're getting a deal.
Yeah.
So can you tell me why the price of new and used is so close? Is it always like that, or is it like that in this season? And why is it like that?
It is not always like that. It is, prices are so much closer right now because the industry as a whole is not finding enough buyers for the new product. There are a lot of dealers who have aging product on their lot, and they are willing to literally give it away.
So the floor of the new stuff that's still sitting on the lot has down.
Dropped way down.
Okay.
Many times below cost if you get something that's a year or 2 years old.
So it's not that used units are getting more expensive. It's that new units are aging and getting less expensive. So the gap is closing.
Is there any upward creep on the used? Because
a creep.
Oh yeah.
Every time you say it, it's the creep episode.
So we know the floor of the new stuff has come down. Has the ceiling on the used stuff gone up a little bit just because everyone knows that used is selling good?
You know, I don't know that it has gone up. But if you remember during the pandemic, everything was more expensive. Everything got higher.
And it hasn't gone back down.
And I do not believe the used numbers have dropped.
So it's kind of like what they say about taxes.
As significantly as the new has.
Yeah.
The used just has, it has definitely dropped.
Okay.
I mean, there are people that we gave buy bids to who were looking at trade-ins a year ago, and they come back and were like, well, I can't give you anything close to that now. So they've certainly dropped, but not as much.
Okay.
And especially if it's within 2 years, then people consider it close to new. Manufacturers have not made a ton of changes in features and looks of the campers.
Right.
Because their factories aren't running full bore like they used to. And
they have to help get rid of the aging units because they're sellers just like us. So if we don't get rid of the units, we're not going to buy more units.
And they're still building them very much like they did 2 years ago because they didn't build as many as they thought they would last year. So now a lot of it, they just haven't spent the money on the R&D and the changes. So very few models have really had major renovations. So the older units don't look as aged as they normally would because there hasn't been a whole lot of changes. And the prices have become close together if you find one that's been on someone's lot for a year or two. I don't know. It is an interesting phenomenon that used is so popular now. Because of that. Because there are new things that are comparable that are not much more expensive.
Right. What do you think this dynamic is doing? And how long do you think this dynamic might last? What is this dynamic doing to dealerships and to manufacturers? We kind of already hit on that. But how long do you think this dynamic might last?
I think we've got until the spring of 25 before we see much of anything moving.
Okay.
So it isn't like anybody has to rush out right now to get a deal. This time last year, everybody was getting rid of their 22s, and there is still a ton of 2023 units out there.
Right.
And I know some of you are saying, well, that's not a big deal because, gosh, it's only 2024. But within the next month or so, we'll start to see 2025 models coming out.
Yeah.
So then we have new units that are essentially 2 years old.
Yes. Now, one of the dilemmas that people will run into when they're comparing new to used is that most banks will finance a 2023 as being used, which is just a little higher interest rate.
Okay.
So that is something that you want to ask if you're financing, is if it's going to finance as new or as used. Because if the bank classifies it as used, you're in a different group of rates.
Okay, I think I get it, but would you explain why a bank might do that and when that kind of changeover happens?
Because the value has gone down on the unit. And banks generally charge a little bit more to finance a used one because they know that it's not going to be in as good a shape and they want to be sure they make some money on the loan. It is a higher risk for a bank. So it costs just a little bit more. The new ones, they know that new ones have much less chance of being foreclosed upon, of even being traded in, or if they did have to take it back, it would be in better shape.
It's not just how they value the product. It's also how they see the reliability of people who target used or target new
Creeps.
purchases.
I don't know, maybe. I mean, there's actuary tables I'm sure they go by of what percentage of these were purchased new, what were purchased used, and it protects them a little bit on the value of the camper because it's harder to determine.
Yeah. And the changeover when they start determining something that yesterday it was new, now they're saying it's used, is usually as soon as the wheels of the next model year hit the ground at a dealership. Is that pretty near?
No.
Correct? No?
Nope, that's not how they do it. They do it by, that is where sometimes pricing changes with the manufacturer. So if there is 2025s on our lots, some manufacturers will then let us discount the 24s, which we couldn't do until we had 25s. So that is kind of the breaking point there.
So when do banks start going, no, that's used now?
Yeah, but every bank does it different. But in general, banks usually say they go more by calendar years, and they say, "Yep, now at this point, we're going to change." But they're all different. Some of them can just say, "Hey, in March, we're going to start doing everything that's a 23 is going to be used, and our cutoff is March 15th or whatever."
So it sounds like when you're sitting down with finance, and they've checked with 3 or 4 different places for financing, they're going to be able to tell you, yeah, such and such is this, such and such is this. And you say, well, why is this one so different than the other one? Oh, that one says it's used, and this one says it's new.
Yeah. And most banks right now are going to say a 23 is used. It's pretty common.
Okay.
Yeah, a 22 is used. The 23s will be used very soon, if they're not already. So that makes a difference. But is it enough difference? So on some of these, you looked at a Tab 400, which is a popular unit here. Now, a 2019 is going to be 5 years old. So that's going to be half price of a new one.
Okay.
According to your records.
Yeah, that's 2019. So 5 years.
So if it takes 5 years to get to half price, but you could find one that's 2 years old that's used, if it was, 30-40% off, that would be great.
Right.
Most of the time, it's going to be 10% less than a new.
And this is a good time to know about the history and construction of what you're looking at, too.
Yeah.
Because there are some very entry-level trailers out there that you can supposedly find by the numbers really good deal on. But we know the manufacturer of Tab 400, New Camp, those things hold up really well.
Right.
Fantastic materials and components and just engineering. So their value should hold better.
Well, and if you're looking at a high-end camper and it's $5,000 to $10,000 less, on a nice high-end trailer, I don't know. I would think really hard about buying used. If it's 30 to 40% less, maybe a great value because you've got some room to put some money in it, and buy an extended service plan. So I guess that is really the main point of talking about buying used. Don't be fooled in thinking that just because it says it's a used trailer that it is a great deal, because it isn't always. There's other options out there. That's all.
Do the maths.
Yeah.
So is this the time? Obviously, we're all about people wanting to trade in, move up, chase their dreams. We're all about. But if it's simply, I have a trailer and I don't want to look at it anymore, is this the time to try to private sell? Or what have you?
It's as good a time as any.
Yeah.
Holding on to it another 2 years until the market gets a little stronger is not going to help you.
Not a good play.
No. Used are selling. People are paying for them. Put it out there. Clean it up and put it out there. We did a great podcast, and it's been probably a year or two, on prepping a used unit and putting it on the market. So if people are looking at individually selling theirs, then that's a good thing to do. And, as a dealership, we're supposed to tell you to bring it on in, make it easy on yourself. We'll trade it in for you. But to make the most money, everybody knows you should sell it yourself. And the market is strong for used right now. So even if you're looking at moving up in the market, I encourage everybody, make the most of it. If you are willing to put in the effort, try selling it yourself.
Yes.
And try putting it out there at a price you want. Then if it sells, great. Then take that money and go buy something. If it doesn't sell, then take it in and try to trade it in, and you will have a very good vantage point of what it will and won't sell for at that point.
Right.
You'll be well informed of what's reasonable.
There's education there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Used is hot right now, and new is a heck of a deal.
Yeah.
So be sure to compare, guys.
Very good. Very good. So where y'all going camping? Yeah. You're not getting out of this. It's like we're entering into summer.
It took me a minute.
Y'all haven't updated me on your camping plans.
June 28th, we're going to Dinosaur Valley State Park.
That old place?
The kids
Wanna
have
be
never been.
fun?
I'm really excited.
I've never been.
It's going to be so weltering,
So hot.
but I don't really care. I think we should devise some sort of like water system where we can just like dump water on us as we're walking around. I don't know. I haven't thought about
There's
it.
got to be a way to
What
do
about your
this.
fake Stanley Cup full of water?
But also a whole lot of dinosaur tracks are in the creeks. So let's just hope the creeks have water, because sometimes they don't have much.
Yeah,
Well,
but
it's easier to see the footprints.
if they have water, then you can't see the tracks.
Oh, well.
You don't have to go.
It is so hot out there right now. I can't imagine what it will be 3 weeks from now.
Going to be very hot.
Bring
and
a
I don't
parasol.
care. We live in Texas.
Yep,
We're going.
we'll get used to it.
No, we won't, but we'll still go.
I've heard it's tons of fun. So we talked about that a few podcasts back, and then we just got off the air and made a reservation.
Yeah.
But next week, I get to go to UCamp. So I'm really
right.
excited. I leave tomorrow. Do I leave
You
tomorrow?
leave tomorrow.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sad. I'm going to miss everybody.
I know, Lindsay. Me
I
too.
hear that their high lately has been like 87, 88.
No, the weather's going to be amazing.
Here, the high's already been in the 90s. And humid.
You touch the Ohio grass for me.
I will. It's so soft and fuzzy.
Yeah.
And I'll eat an Amish donut for you, maybe.
drive around
I don't
in
know if I can
golf
finish it.
carts. Yeah,
it's
no,
huge. They are massive, like dinner plate size.
UCamp is so much fun.
Yes, if you ever want to see a whole bunch of crazy people having a blast, you need to look up UCamp, and you can look it up just like it's spelled, UCAMP, and it is new camps get together every year, and it is so fun.
It is so fun.
So fun. So very excited to be there.
Yeah, fun story. I'm flying out with PJ, and I still don't get to go.
Yeah, I know. You get to go up there and work for a few days before. Then we're sending you home.
But
We're
you
having
still get
fun.
the weather. You still
get the
get the
weather.
grass, and you still get to hang out with the new camp people, which is
That's pretty all right.
half the cool people.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's pretty all right.
It's pretty cool. It'll be fun. Yep. Do you have camping plans this summer?
No, I do not. Which is weird for me.
It is
Usually
weird.
by now I've gone on 3 or 4, typically 3 by now, camping trips. And I've done 0.
Wow.
You went on the rally. It doesn't really-
I just don't count it.
I know. I try to, but
All right. Well, next podcast, we want to hear where you're headed. Make some plans. Come on.
I just found out that a cousin of mine in Clinton, Mississippi, they just signed for a house on a few acres on a lake, and there's room for a trailer. So since I heard about that last night, Laura and I are going to kick around the idea of when we might go in the fall to visit my cousin and his wife and kids.
Well, Clinton, Mississippi is no place I've ever been. So I bet it's gorgeous. You should go.
Yeah.
But you have to camp sometime in the summer. Come on.
Yeah, but
Come on.
that's when
Come on.
I didn't plan anything, and my summer camping is always out of state at a higher latitude and altitude.
Well, then
got
you better
time?
get to planning.
Ugh.
hey,
Guys,
just
it is-
throw a dart at a map.
Yeah, it's going to land in like South Texas.
Yo, no, dude. But you're a better shot than that. You're fine.
All right.
Well, everybody make some camping plans, and yeah, you got to get out there. You got to have some fun, and I hope you've got some great trips on the horizon.
Everybody, that's it for this episode of the RV Small Talk podcast. We have had a good time talking new and used trailers and
creeps.
And creeps. And if you want to see the show notes for this episode and any other episodes that we have made in the past and maybe future episodes when you get there, go to rvsmalltalk.com. You can find us on social media. Just look up RV Small Talk Podcast. And you can also find us on the YouTube. Just look up RV Small Talk Podcast. We're there. Anything else, you two?
No, I'm pretty impressed that you can go to our website and see the future. I have to look that up.
Well, I mean, if you listen to this in a few months, you might see that we've made a few more episodes since this one.
Got it.
Everybody, thanks so much. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.